Hey, Braden. So today we're going to read in Matthew 11:21. This is Jesus. Remember, the last thing we read was he sent out his disciples to preach in the different towns. And now Jesus is going and going to the different towns himself. And this is what he says one time. He says, "Woe to you, Chorazin." And that's one of the cities that he was in before. "Woe to you, Bethsaida." And that's another town that he was in. "For if the miracles that were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented in sackcloth and ashes long ago." So what he's saying there is, if he had done those miracles in other towns who were very sinful towns, those people would have turned, they would have repented. When it says repented in sackcloth and ashes, back in those days the tradition was if someone died or if you felt really bad about something, then what you did was you put on these really rough clothes, and they would actually put ashes on their head, or they would sit in an ash heap, and that's the way that they showed how sorry they were or how upset they were. So he's saying that these really sinful towns would have repented, and they would have felt really bad, and they would have turned to God. He continues, "But I tell you, it will be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you." So he's saying it's better for these sinful towns who never saw Jesus than it is for the towns who saw Jesus do miracles but didn't care. And then later on at the end of that chapter, chapter 11, it says, "All of you take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And what that means, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. A yoke is what they would put on animals like an ox or donkeys or mules or horses. It's a contraption that they put on the animals so that then they could hook up the farm equipment to them. And so this yoke was usually very heavy, and it could be very hard for the animals to carry. But Jesus says, my yoke, or he's saying the work that I have for you to do, or the life that I have, is easy, and my burden is light. So first of all, when I read this, I thought, we are really so blessed. We are like Chorazin, and we are like Bethsaida. We have the miracles and the power of God in our lives. And so we have to remember to be thankful for that, because if we don't, we can be cursed. Like Jesus said, it would be better off if we didn't have those things in our lives, if we had these wonderful things from God, but didn't thank Him for it and didn't let that change us. And second of all, in that second part of that chapter, if we are overburdened in our lives, if we feel overwhelmed, if we go to bed at night and can't sleep, then we're doing it wrong. Because Jesus said His burden is easy and His yoke is light. So if we feel like we are overwhelmed and can't handle our lives, then we have some other burden on us. We're not taking Jesus' burden, we're taking some other burden on us. Sometimes, if that happens, that means we have to put a burden down, stop doing something, let something go. But I think more often it's more about mental. It's about what we do mentally with those burdens. Are we taking the burdens on ourselves and therefore making them harder on us? Whereas if we could just mentally turn it over to God, then it would feel lighter. It would be the same amount of work. It would be the same things. But if we turn it over to God, then it's on Him to carry. And our burden, the burden that we're carrying, is much lighter, even though it's the same thing. So yeah, we need to work hard, and we should go to bed tired at night, but when we go to bed, we should sleep well. We should sleep like a baby at night, because the burden's not too heavy. It might be a lot of work, and it might make us tired, but that doesn't mean that it's overly hard. So we just have to trust in God. We have to first of all, be thankful for everything He's done. Every day, think of the wonderful things He's given us. Be thankful for those, because otherwise we're asking for trouble if we don't. And then second of all, those things that are hard and those things that we feel like are overwhelming us, we need to either drop them or turn them over to God, because His yoke is easy and His burden is light.